Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the Unbound Identity theory. Okay, this is part of a playlist. If you're not sure what that is, you should watch this playlist in order. Okay, all right, so let's go forward. So let's talk about the Unbound Identity theory. So, what am I saying that Dungeons and Dragons actually, in my humble opinion, is a human improvement engine, not a game? Let's talk about that. All right, so it all goes back to this unbound identity that Gygax, in my humble opinion, established in 1974, right? So basically, Dungeons and Dragons does something that no other product had ever done. Okay, so Gary Gygax, in my humble opinion, disguised this human improvement engine as a game, Dungeons and Dragons, right? But Dungeons and Dragons, if you look at it clearly, in my humble opinion, it's very hard to think of it as a game. Very hard, right? Because it does something that had never been done before. And the biggest thing is this. So Dungeons and Dragons unbinds a human from having to live in their soul-born identity. They continue to live in their soul, their soul one, SOL, their one, okay? In their soul, SOLE, okay? From living in their soul-born identity, they continue to live there. But if they're a dungeon master, they will very quickly establish themselves as literally 1,000 other identities. Quite literally. This has happened with me. I've been dungeon mastering since 1982. It's now 2022. That's 40 years. 92, 2002, 12. Yeah, that's 4 decades. And in that time, I've easily established myself in 1,000 other identities. I've been a prosperous innkeeper. I have been an airborne elemental Genasi fighter. These are all non-player characters, right? I have been a dragonborn ranger sailor, right? And just innumerable other identities, right? And I inhabit these identities. I spend time with them. I spend time in them not just when I'm at the table, but when I'm apart from the table, right? In addition to that, players inhabit usually about 100 in a strong, robust life of Dungeons and Dragons play. They will experience easily 100 different player characters, right? And populate and inhabit these other identities. What do we mean when we say unbound identity, right? Like, what Gary Gygax created, this human improvement engine, in my humble opinion, allows people to be any gender, any race, any orientation, right? Whether it be IRL or fantasy, right? Like, there are a lot of people in America who, in the 1950s were had to, present as like cis, right? In Dungeons and Dragons, not only can you present as, any of the LGBTQ orientations, but you can make a new orientation that only exists within a fantasy world. It's literally unbinds you even far more than you can unbind yourself from an identity in IRL, right? You can, like, what if you have an orientation that isn't presented within the very limited array of LGBTQ identities? Dungeons and Dragons can fix that problem for you. Like, if you have an orientation that only might be for 3 people in the world, Gary Gygax created this human improvement engine that allows you to inhabit an identity that allows you to actually express your orientation that can't be expressed through LGBTQ community, right? Because they have a limited view of orientations, right? Unlike the human improvement engine that Gary Gygax created, right? So when we talk about unbound identity, Gary puts forward this thing, right? This creation in 1974, the greatest tabletop role-playing game in the world, the oldest role-playing game in the world, the first role-playing game in the world, and he establishes, and he just shouts to the sky for all of humanity, you are no longer bound to your soul-born identity. This human improvement engine that I have built will allow you to live multiple identities and to express who you truly are through three different directions: orientation, gender, and race, right? And you're not even bound to the IRL options. We can take you in different directions. And with this game, you can create a new unbound self. And you're not limited to it. Just one more. It's as many as you can find a community to build this with, right? One dungeon master, one player, that's the starting point. You can scale up to 5, right? And you can truly recraft as many worlds as you wish, where you are who you want to be, not who you were told you were when you were born, not who you're told you are right now, but who you choose to be, right? And, again, like, I look at, Dungeons and Dragons, and people are like, oh, this is a game. Is it? Is there any other game in the world that ever freed people and allowed them to choose race, gender, and orientation in truly 360-degree spherical dimensions? I've never seen a game like that. That ain't Candyland. Like, in fact, no game that's ever been created ever presents like that. So that's one aspect of the Unbound Identity. The words have very deep meaning, right? And so I'm just kind of trying to shape what the Unbound Identity theory is for you, get you there. Thanks for going along with this journey. Thanks for your patience as this playlist grows. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.